Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today with your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
and wearehistorically.com, conscious human apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 42. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves living in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our bodies work, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a posture therapist and coherence coach. We're focusing on living agreements. Today's theme, making change easy. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator, and she'll be introducing our guest.
Hooray! Well, I love our topics today, and I really enjoy Peter. I know you guys will too. He is self-expressed, he's adorable, he's a force to be reckoned with, and I'm going to let him tell you about the ins and outs of what he does in the world. But welcome, Peter.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
I'm super excited to have you here, and I would like you to tell everyone what you do, like your little elevator pitch, right? When someone says, "Hey, Peter, what do you do?" Tell us what you do, and then we'll talk about today's theme, making change easy.
Yeah. So I guess it's perfect, really segue into this is I help people make changes in their lives. Now, Full Spectrum Performance is the business that I own, and by trade, I'm a personal trainer and a spiritual facilitator. Or you could say transformation specialist like your guys' selves. And most importantly, it's all about wellness and fitness development. It's gearing people to recognize that we are a system, and in this body to really create harmony with our inner world, we need to bring a balance and harmony to everything that's involved with the external one as well. So it's all about bringing balance and harmony to each other's lives and spreading that love and light. So
It's
That's
gorgeous.
incredible.
Yes, and then you also have some projects that you're working on.
ooh, yes.
What are those?
Well, I have a few different projects right now. There's an ongoing kind of community building, spreading, I guess you would almost say like a spiritual community and message of love, light, consciousness, and evolution. And that is community through unity. So it's an ongoing thing. We took a little bit of a break during the winter, but it's essentially a free concert series that we do outside. We go to different parks, we play music, we do meditations, we have yoga, and really it's just an awesome experience for people to bridge the gap and enter into the unknown realm of spirituality and woo-woo.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a chance to get together outside during these times when we've been so separated, to have
yeah.
a little space between us outside and actually connect.
Yeah, and I mean, most importantly, I think the thing is really changing the understanding of what people see as community, spirituality, wellness, health, mental health. And it's, again, tapping into the human spirit. It's really making the potential of the human experience shaped around truth, around love, around harmony, around creativity, around art and expression, and most importantly, just enjoying good vibes and good energy.
Mhm. And it's
That's
really
awesome.
kind of catapulted you into the world in a different way with new relationships and new
Yeah.
new connections. You want to talk about that a little?
Oh yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It definitely has. It's opened my eyes to different groups of people. I mean, obviously the purpose of it is to build bridges through all different people in the community, different shapes, colors, creeds, whatever they're into. And it's been incredibly powerful just to see of all the different, age ranges and demographics of how needed it was for people, how much we got those words of encouragement and just letting them know like, hey, we really love this. We can't stop by and join. We have different plans, but here's donations. So it's just kind of really added to the overall work that I'm doing, because outside of all the full spectrum performance and CTU things, I write, I'm always trying to evolve myself. I work on Creative Chat with Rusty, and, it's just been really eye-opening to, I guess you would just say, change my perspective to the point where it opened up some new different avenues of growth and exploration for my own self-mastery.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, gorgeous, right? So much fruit. It's wonderful. When we put ourselves out there, you get like wild hair, and the next thing you know, you're rolling down the hill, adding snow.
Exactly. And then you'll find people that'll be like, hey, you want some more? Go for it. And it's those opportunities that you don't realize unless you take that chance. And that's, I think, the whole theme of change today. I think it's always important to really recognize that we only enter these newfound understandings and perspectives when we end the old cycles and have a little courage and faith and trust and playfulness to really dive into the unknown.
Yeah, boy, that's a quotable.
It's a mouthful.
That's awesome. And I do want to shout out to our producer, Rusty, and you have a show. You want to talk a little about that?
Oh yeah, Creative Chat. That was, it's the perfect example of the concept of community through unity. I've always wanted to do a show. It's just been, I was always trying to talk about spirituality and development, but how can we really make it more digestible and kind of sprinkled in there so it's subconsciously getting digested and processed versus straightforward in the face, because that does turn some people away because of their association with it. So Creative Chat was kind of, the brain and heart child of Rusty and myself, that when we experienced each other and just crossed paths, it was like, hey, this works. He offered me, a spot to co-host, and I jumped on board. And the moment we started talking, it was just kind of like magic. I don't know. You just felt it, right? You just felt the resonance. You felt the energy. And most importantly, the messages and the things that were coming through. Like you guys and your great platform of Live by Heart today, it's when you're able to connect with other light workers and healers, what needs to be said and heard for the people at those time periods in life just expresses itself and flows. So it's just been a wild ride. And I guess you could say these past few months, especially with like the quarantine and lockdowns and all that, have just been a radiant neon sign of just continuing to dance the dance and trust in life. And it's just been such a great message just to see it validated over and over with these new opportunities and people, and again, like beautiful souls like yourselves, like being able to actually spread this information, wisdom, insight, heart talk, whatever you want to know it as or identify it as, and spread it to the people who really need it now.
Yeah, it's something that like what I'm in it for, and we've talked about this a lot, Dawn and I, is, like we can't give people all the things. You can't give them actually working out together with you all the time, but we can give them the hope and the possibility and the stories of change and the what's possible in all our lives. Like I feel like that's really helpful. And in this theme of making change easy, I feel like part of it is just the stories we tell ourselves, and that's what we're talking about here.
Oh, definitely. And it's, again, your guys' entire platform is really, every time I tap in, it's always inspiring. There's always different juicy nuggets of wisdom to take home and, as I like to say, marinate in. And I love the word you use, the deliciousness. You just want to marinate in that deliciousness. And as when I have these types of moments happen where I chime in and I hear something that resonates with me, almost naturally, I'll see it out in the real world and have that opportunity to actually, I guess you would say, like apply what I gained or practice the tools of what I learned. And I think that's really important for, like my clients and the students that I work with, is providing them a framework for change. And it's kind of like what you said, Wendy, it's giving them the tools to handle these different approaches and perspectives to things and ending those old cycles and, negative rumination and those cyclic patterns of self-talk that are destructive and, fearful, that hold you back from really being courageous and open and experiencing love and light. So it's really important to, I think, give people the information to question themselves more, and question what is their authenticity in this. Is this really based in your love or is this based in your fear? And getting them to, I can't work out with them all the time, but time and time again, I have students tell me like, I had a situation this week and I asked myself, what would Peter say? And it doesn't matter. Like it's really honestly way too much praise in that sense of what would I say, but it's something that gets them naturally in this process of questioning themselves, of putting yourself in a position of a different perspective. And I think that's the real important thing of making change and creating a lifestyle change, is not holding them so tightly onto your past judgments and predeterminations, and really embracing the ride and trying to come at it from that objective standpoint. Kind of like a chessboard, you're just looking at all the different moves that could be made.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe that different perspectives are key. And Dawn, you had this concept of like the God's eye view. Is that how you say it?
I say it, seeing through the eyes of God.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like all the different perspectives that we can take change the whole game. If I look from this way, it looks like this. If I look from the other corner, it looks totally different. And how can I operate and be able to find the path or the dance that makes the change easy, makes the life easy. Yeah.
Look through that.
Dawn,
I'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to ask you, Peter, because our theme is about making change and making it easy. Will you share with us a little bit about your journey in 2020? Because you, right, as a fitness trainer, that all had to change in some ways. So will you talk about how it changed and what you did to make the change easy, not just for you, but also for your clients?
Ooh, I love it. That's a great question, Dawn. Well, most importantly, I think the thing to recognize is with my fitness business, I kind of approach things somewhat scientifically and strategically in how I bring about change, or manifesting change, or facilitating change in others. And my model is really geared around focusing on people who are trying to make real life practical changes to their like daily routines. And I think that's the thing to understand, is getting them in the position of recognizing their own life. Everything is like a fuel or an energy investment. Whatever you add that into, it's going to keep tipping the scales. And if you're tipping it into the external things, the pleasures, and I mean this in like overindulgence, like eating a ton of sweets, eating it, if you're investing into all that, it's more so about creating the changes that will eliminate those options from happening. If you don't have the willpower to handle that choice and to make a conscious choice, then the easiest thing to do is just to eliminate it until you feel like your will is strong enough. And I think the thing is to recognize, willpower is a muscle. So it's trying to get the associations of everything that they've been doing to pivot slightly. And it starts small and it builds up. So in terms of, dealing with the quarantine, a lot of people have had more times on their hand. They have time to do all these DIY projects. They don't have really as much weight for their excuses. So in terms of helping them with their changes, it's been getting them to really question their victim, the hurt, wounded child within. And it's been really interesting. I found that even with my personal training clients, probably these past like 4 months, most of my clients have shifted in a direction that's very spiritual. Like a lot of the conversations that go on in our days are a lot more helping them process the questions that have come up. And I think that's important to kind of touch on, is that this is like the first time in a lot of people's life they've had a chance to stop, to take a breath, and to really be here for life. And because of that, it's caused the voices that many suppress to come back up. And I've noticed that there's been a lot of distress with people. There's been a lot of regret, themes of past mistakes, themes of, not being able to let go and move forward have come up. So I found that the most impactful things that I've done to kind of change and pivot things in this last year has been giving people the spiritual tools more straightforwardly. I think, usually if people are into it, I would very much so say things, like we'll just focus on the physical or just personal training and things along that nature. But now it's just full-blown spiritual conversation, like full-blown satsang type of spiritual discourse. During their rest period, we'll stretch, essentially changing over the routine. Now that I think about it, the last 10 minutes to maybe 15 minutes will really just decompress and come into a point of just stretching and reflection. and giving people the tools to navigate their own inner environment productively. I guess that's the most accurate way I could put it.
That's beautiful. So
Really good.
two things you mentioned. One, eliminating options, right? Eliminating those options that might carry them down a road they don't want to go. And that's the definition of the word decide, which means to cut off any other option. So that's amazing, right? I love that you're doing that. And you do that, you help clients to do that, but you also do that for yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing I want to mention is the voices you mentioned. So when we're slowing down, when we are not as distracted by our commute or other things in our lives, which the pandemic has done for us, there are things that arise, and the voices are carried by feelings. And you mentioned regret, right? A lot of memories that come up for people. And it's so beautiful that you are helping people to turn inward and look at themselves from a different perspective, which of course is the goal of Live by Heart, right? To turn inward. So thank you so much for that. That's beautiful. I'd like to piggyback that with how you yourself stay fresh, on the edge, willing to be open to constant change.
It's really what you said earlier, Dawn, and it's that kind of looking through the eyes of God. I truly try to do that all the time, and I think what makes me almost like the facilitator or like the teacher role is that I've been doing this for nearly my whole life. It's just been a natural inclination to pull towards the self-development, and I think I can really attest that to my curiosity. I've always been a questioner, a little rebellion, you could say. And it's really pushed me to the point where I come to understand what's really important. And I think the one theme that always echoes, especially with all the divide we've seen these past few years, is that we're all way more attuned and similar and alike than we are ever different and have ever been different. And getting people to question the things that we all get hung up on. I think self-worthlessness, fear, past mistakes, all of these things are human, like personhood 101, as I like to call it. And it's the first steps that we always have to overcome. And most people, that voice, that imagination never ends. And they're always just kind of perpetually chasing a cloud that's always over their head. Now that people have had time to stop, it's finally like the clouds overhead. So it's funny because I don't see any of these issues, they've never really gone away. They've just, again, people now have the time to reflect and marinate in them, and being able to fully give people the tools to discern. That's probably the most important thing nowadays to recognize with how do you overcome like the voices in the head? How do you overcome the negative talk? How do you change that cycle? And it's to question, where's the origin of it?
Exactly.
Like it's very straight. Like, think the biggest paradox is people think spirituality is very kind of like out there, and it's nonsensical, and it's just kind of, oh, you're just deflated, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. But in truth, I find that these spiritual concepts are the most logical and objective things you can really take away from life. And it's that weight of, are you going to really keep the ego and all the dramas that you tell yourself in your head to the most or highest pedestal, or are you going to really put truth no matter how it makes you feel? So in my own life, that I've never really had an ounce of self-protection in that sense. And like, I'm not trying to hold on to these things in the past. I really do, and have tried to always embrace the ride. And again, it brings back to that point you said, when you look through the eyes of God, you come to really humble yourself with every opportunity, with every action, because you're coming from that space of knowing the fleetingness of it. You come from that space of knowing that this is an illusory space, that this is a dreamlike playground. And when you have those experiences, you can't unsee it. You can't unlive it. So the only thing you can do if you really want to continue the process of harmony and unfoldment is to embrace it. because I've gone through the cul-de-sacs in my past of being like, oh, is this really what I got myself signed up for? And being in a dark night of the soul in like my early 20s and no one knowing what's going on around me, and essentially feeling like, I'm an orca amongst like cows on the land, being like, this is not where I should be, and it's just, I guess it's just faith and trust and love. I mean, when you've been doing this stuff for so long, what really serves the heart. And it's not any of the easy stuff. It's not any of the excuses. It's always okay, well, how can I put this back on myself and where can I learn and grow from it? So I know that was a long answer to a short question, but in terms of everything, it really is just, I'm the way I'm at is because of my own unique shine. Like each being is different, but the one thing that's kept me moving forward and that I can find as a kind of a parallel or a similar path compared to people on this path is living in what you've experienced and know truthfully and honestly, not lying to yourself about it. So it would be so weird for me to go out and just like be aggressive and like fight with someone and just like scream and yell, and really just be like an opposing force or like a negative being in this world, because it's so paradoxical. It's so just illogical to me. And it's those things that don't resonate with my heart like at all that I just won't even dabble with.
Wow, that's really powerful and beautiful images too. With that, thank you, Peter. Let's take a short break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com. I'll teach you everything you need to know.
Welcome back. Today's show has a guest, Peter Lucas, who's talking about shining his own light. And beautifully done through the whole pandemic. I just want to say, wonderful, Peter. Thank you so much for being a beacon during a time when so many of us are struggling. We've also been talking about seeing through the eyes of God, and that's sort of my own little way of thinking about it. But we've talked about it in our prior shows. We've called it neutrality, and that neutrality is keeping ourselves open and being able to see across the whole board, right? Everything from more than one perspective. With regard to making change easy, Peter, I'd like you to share with us some of the kinds of things that you do on a regular daily basis. I know you do some water fasts. What kinds of things do you do that keep you in the vibration of change?
Ooh, that's a great one. What do I do daily? I think it's funny that it's about change, but I think one of the things that really makes that possible is I do have a chunk of consistency in my routine that I find is more advantageous to change and kind of remain in that flexible fluidity of the flow.
Tell me about that.
Than if I don't.
How does structure allow you to stay in change?
It gives me the strength and the fuel personally with what it does. Now, what that is, exercise, meditation, some breath work, and gratitude. Like I start my day with gratitude, just waking up and being grateful to be here, to have this experience and gift of life. And I've always found that when you start with that and you just kind of keep going with the flow of just your meditation, it's just this force field almost that just protects you throughout the day. And it gives you the extra patience, the extra grace, the extra love just to continue to handle whatever it is that life comes and throws at you. So in terms of my own strength for the change, it lets me know that I'm always here. I guess you would say it's a very grounding routine to kind of keep me present and just in that state of neutrality. And I use the word indifference personally. I learned it kind of in the Vedic Eastern understanding of dispassion.
Mhm.
And I never really liked that word because, I see it as human beings, we're kind of naturally thrown in this wheelhouse of passion. But it's different because I like indifference because it doesn't mean the passion consumes us. We're indifferent to the passion. And I think
Mm.
that's the objective kind of, I call it sage mode, that kind of helps me embrace change, because when you're meditating, when you have this opportunity to fully rest consciously, when you just rested subconsciously for the most part, it gives you this profound, I guess the only word I really know it as is trust and just faith in life, that I already know that the moment I come back to the body and open my eyes and feel the sun's rays, and hear the birds, that life's here. Like life showing up to protect, life showing up to provide, life showing up for these opportunity to receive and give grace. And really, as long as I know that I'm staying centered within my own heart, I'm naturally harmonizing with life. And when I have that profound trust, everything is grace. And, even if, like, months ago got a flat tire, grace, like, no
Mm.
matter what happens, it's just like, okay, cool, well, like, what's the opportunity or lesson here, what's the
Mm.
reminder here? And it's drastically changed the, I guess you would just say, the initial reaction of the body. A lot of making change is recognizing that, the body is a being of habit. The body has its own memory. The body has its own reactions and responses it wants to go into. So to fully embrace the change all the time, it's giving yourself the space to stop that initial pull or attachment to the reaction, so you can respond and show up for life objectively, so you can be here in the moment, so you can live honestly. And again, like, just having that consistent routine where I know I'm getting everything I need for my body. It gets its stress with the exercise, it gets its decompression with the meditation, it heals the heart with some reflection and, the self mastery, and most importantly, it harmonizes my energy, so I'm not attracting myself towards the chaos and the destruction. I may have some conflict or something come up, but it's attracting me towards something where, like, the light can go into the darkness and shine. So usually if I have anything like that come up, it's in a position where I can help someone, where I can heal someone, where where someone reminds me that humanity has so much hope and potential. It's I don't know, it's hard to put into words, but I find that having the consistency to really serve yourself for what resonates with your heart is huge, because when your heart is full, it overflows.
Yes.
It's not, you're not living in a state of depletion. You're not living with your tank empty. You're ready to give fuel in different canisters and containers to other people. And it's a profoundly awesome experience when you've finally started to love yourself. And again, like, I guess if I have to sum it up, it's just self-love. Love yourself, and then you have the patience and love and kindness and energy to love everything and everyone else. And when you're living with that understanding that everything is one, that we're all tapped in, that we are all one, that, I very much live in that understanding of namaste. It's, the same sparkle and twinkle in the eyes that you have, that I see in you guys, is the same one that's in mine. We all share that same path back to the source, to the creator. And when you live in that, it's just, you don't have fear, like, it's hard. It really is hard to consciously, like, explain to people that haven't experienced it yet, because if you don't, you're constantly living in your own imagination all the time anyway. So to
Mm.
do what I do is no different than what so many people do now and have continued to do. It's just, are you going to have the courage to really question what you want, what really speaks to your heart? And are you going to be diligent enough to question, well, is that based in me? Is that actually me? Or is that based in someone else? So what led me to this point of change, needing that type of static routine, has come through a process of questioning, of evolution, of experiencing, of experimenting. Sometimes my routines didn't work out. Like, they weren't fun. I didn't enjoy them. And because of that, I didn't want to do them. And if it's lacking that attachment, that affection, I know myself well enough where I got to do something to change it. So it's just experimenting and dabbling and stuff. Like, it's funny, actually, coming back to something that was like on our creative chat episode with Wendy, she was talking about just like grounding and all these other things. And I had started that practice, and, like, I go out and hug my maple tree every day. Like,
Mm.
I'm sure my neighbors think I'm crazy, but, like, I do my sunrise meditations. I go out after I get my little workout in, do my squats, do my push-ups, calisthenic stuff, and then bam, meditate, tree stuff, like immersion with nature and love. And it's just that harmony that I was telling Rusty in the green room. The hummingbird game has changed my life because I notice now I have different friends. I'll meditate outside and I have a hummingbird that comes and hangs out with me every morning, like to a T. Doesn't matter when I meditate. Whenever I'm out there and start to resonate, it happens. So like when you do those types of things, like I find that just life, the angels, your guardians, your ancestors, they reward you with such awesome experiences. It gives you the motivation to continue this process of change. Because for me, it becomes that point where it's like a playground. Like I just explored this one playground. This was an awesome thing. Well, where's the next playground? And when you're ready for that, when you learned every wood chip, every aspect of the playground, you evolve into the next one. Then it just becomes a new playground to play in. So when you truly embrace change, and change becomes easy naturally because it's fun, because you recognize the importance of it. Getting there is a different story, but but once you're on that ride and wave, you're just going. You embrace it.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us how you make change easy. And our listeners can find Peter on Creatives Chat and in Community Through Unity when they get that up and running again. So I want to thank you, Peter, for joining us. You are like the poster child for Live by Heart. I love it. It's fabulous. And thank you, Wendy, for being here too. A big shout out and thanks to everyone watching today. We would love to hear from you. If our conversation spoke to you, please tell us what's on your heart by leaving us a comment. For more information how you can live by heart, go to livebyhearttoday.com. Please like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss our program. We're here every week on Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific time. From our heart to yours. We're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shop online at wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Have a happy